Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you could pick up, you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and our running back coach didn't take the pass. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. The Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by MaXSports. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. We're live, local, and ready to get things going right here on your home for Alabama sports. This is, once again, the Martin Houston Show presented by MaXSports. The Sound of Bama Sports, your show, your team. Glad to be with you broadcasting today. I want to apologize for yesterday. And hate I missed the great opportunity we had, but let's make up for today by you getting in on the conversation at 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. So if you want to interact, still get your thoughts, your comments in a part of the broadcast, please call us on the Alabama One hotline. And if you listen in on the live stream, send us your comments, your reactions, your questions, your thoughts on everything that's happening. Send that to us in the live stream, and we will work that in to the conversation. Of course, today is Tuesday, so we'll have DC Capstone report join us as part of the playbook. We'll open it up and look at Bama in at number 4. We'll look at a review of the SEC championship game, the good, the bad, the ugly, players of the game. We'll look at turning points and more. If you have something that you want to specifically talk about, go ahead and make that a part of the conversation once again by calling us on the Alabama One hotline, 205-342-9904, or posting your thoughts and comments in the chat. Remember that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone. You be the difference you want to see in the world today. Wow. Good morning, X. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Good morning, DC. How you doing, sir? Do not have DC.
Good morning,
DC,
Good morning, X. I'm here.
All right. Good morning. Thanks, guys. Great win for Bama. Kind of on today or yesterday, today, whichever way you want to talk about it. Kind of hard to figure which topic is you want to go into. Of course, the biggest news is that Alabama continues their postseason journey toward a national championship. But I want people to understand that we need to take time and not just jump to the Final Four, because what Alabama did Saturday is a big deal. And sometimes as fans, we lose sight of that Alabama is a champion, and they have secured a championship, and they secured a championship at about a higher level as you could have, DC. When you think about the fact that the team that Alabama beat had dethroned them. Alabama was the toast of the college world, and from the time Alabama beat them until Alabama met them Saturday, they everybody in the world said that Nick Saban is losing it, that the Tide is done, Georgia's the new toast of the town, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so to reclaim the dominance or your place as the head of the SEC, and now to go on a journey to reclaim it as the nation was a big deal. Just talk a little bit about just overall, and then we'll get into specific good, bad, ugly, turning points and all that, but just your overall takeaway from the game.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Martin. I don't think anyone that's an Alabama fan should fly past what was accomplished on the game on Saturday. Matter of fact, that anything that's after that game wouldn't have been possible without winning that game. But not only that, by winning that game, they become the SEC champions, dethroned the Georgia Bulldogs, who, by all accounts of the talking heads, had passed Alabama, had passed Kirby Smart, had passed Nick Saban up, and it was just given that they were going to win and go and defend the three-peat their national championships. And Alabama was not having any of that. Went in and played a game that allowed them to dethrone them. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. Probably I've not heard anybody else say this, but I'll go out on a limb here and say that this is much like the last BCS championship that Alabama won, wherein the game that they played against Georgia was the toughest game on the road to that national championship. And I would say that if Georgia played on a neutral field against any of the remaining three playoff teams, that Georgia would be favored, in my opinion. So I think this game was a big, huge accomplishment, and the way Alabama went about it, really standing on their principles of what they had learned throughout the year, and we saw every bit of that in this game. I think it's a big accomplishment that no one's talking enough about, and so yeah, I agree 100% with you.
Rex, what's your overall thoughts, since we didn't get to really talk about it yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what Alabama accomplished Saturday, they bookended. They were the last team to beat Georgia, first team to beat them in 30 games. And you just talk about the accomplishment as a team when everybody across this country had written off Alabama after that Texas loss back in September. And to have them sitting here, regardless of if they had made it in the playoffs or not, to finish the year 12-1, dethroning Georgia again, as you said, after they had been that this is who kicked them off the throne. It's an accomplishment that this team should savor and enjoy and really understand how special it is. And then you add the fact, not only that, this team allowed Alabama to be the bookend of how the current SEC championship has been set up between the East and the West. It started in 92, 2023. It ends with Alabama once again, kings of the SEC.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, we kind of lose sight of it. But Jed Cohen pointed out 30-time SEC champion, Alabama Crimson Tide, taking care of business against the Georgia Bulldogs. What a great victory! And hey, listen, the reality of it is, it wasn't just national that was questioning Alabama. We question Alabama. I tell people I had one leg off the boat come, Texas, post USF. But I will tell people, my caveat was that this coaching staff needs to go all in with Jalen Milroe. I didn't question this overall team at that point. I questioned the coaching staff. Felt like our defense was good. I felt like our offense could be better if they went all in with Jalen Milroe. And had they not done that, we would, everything that was being said on this radio show, DC, would be true. It would be true if they had not gone all in with Jalen Milroe. So we can say what happened, and it did turn out right, but there was a lot of coaching changing that had to happen. And once again, I'll give Nick Saban kudos for it. He made the changes that needed to be made. I'll let you come in, then we'll get the break, and we'll get a couple callers on the other side.
I agree 100%. Looking back on it, I think it's probably Coach Saban's best coaching ever, not only of the players, which I think he really, really, truly loves these players, loves their attitude, loves their oneness, loves that they're a family more than just teammates. He said that over and over and over. But I think his coaching job was with the coordinators and the others, allowing people to do more, allowing people to have a voice, allowing people to make some changes and being the catalyst for those changes. And I think that what happened at the USF game, in my opinion, was the catalyst for going all in on Jalen Milroe. He was quick as he came out of that game to say, okay, everyone has seen it. Our coordinators have seen it. We got the best opportunity for us to win is to go all in on Jalen Milroe. Should that have been done? Yes. Sooner? Absolutely. If it had been done sooner, would the road have been less bumpy? Absolutely. But sometimes we make mistakes and we learn from our mistakes. And I think this is the best coaching job of Coach Saban, learning from a failure in the season instead of having to wait till a failure after the season. And that's why I give him kudos for it.
And the MVP that nobody's going to talk about for this season, DC and X, and you guys can comment later on, or because we have to get the break, is not a player, not a coach, but a parent or parents. MVP, most valuable parents, is Jalen Milroe's parents, because the reality of it is this coaching staff. I love this team and I love everything about it, but this coaching staff, acknowledging it, but you have to talk about it all equal. They made a humongous mistake all spring, all summer, all fall, and into the season. And had he had a different set of parents, this didn't turn out this way. His parents, when he came and told him he got benched, the report says that his parents said, time moves on. What are you going to do? And that result is what kept his attitude and his mindset right during that USF game, because you and I, DC, during the game communicated and said, what's up with Jalen? He seems to know something that nobody else knows. And he just smiled and he had the right attitude. But a different parent, a different advice, and he creates absolute chaos during that week, divides the team, etc. So I'm giving Jalen Milroe's parents my MVP award for this year's SEC championship winning team, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Milroe, for teaching your son that life is hard and sometimes it doesn't go the way you expect, but how you handle it. 10% what happens to you, 90% how you respond. Coming back on the other side, we got 3 callers. We'll work into the conversation. DC and X, we'll let you guys talk to them. And hey, we'll try to get the good, bad, and ugly and all of those things. But remember, this is your show, your team, and we'll go wherever you want to go if you call in or interact with us on the live stream. More conversation coming up next right here on the Martin Houston Show, powered by MaXSports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Things pretty quiet on the roadways as we start our Tuesday morning. Now, of course, if you do see conditions, give me a call, 205-886-8886. The year-end clearance is on now at Townsend Nissan with savings up to $10,000. Don't miss it. I'm Captain Ray.
It's time to save big every day during our 25 days of deals at Lowe's. Right now, get up to 50% off select artificial Christmas trees, holiday lights, and more. Plus, get 40% off and free local truck delivery on select vanities to elevate your bathroom. Find these savings in-store and online today, because Lowe's knows deals every day. Valid through 12/6 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
See America in your new Burton Campers RV. Be certain with Burton. Burton Campers at exit 231 on I-65 in Calera. Nobody sells RVs for less.
Connecting one-to-one was the support I needed.
I was helped by group therapy. Finding the right physician made a difference in my mental health.
For many, feelings that lead to suicidal thoughts are not just a phase or simply a mood. They're signs someone may need mental health support. Help is available 24/7.
Talking about my true feelings changed my life. Saved it, really.
There is no shame in sharing how you feel. Call 988 and be connected to a trained mental health counselor. Brought to you by the Alabama Department of Mental Health.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
We'll forecast a good supply of sunshine today, the high around 60. Fair tonight, the low 38. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and cooler, the high 52. And the weather stays dry Thursday. The sky will be sunny, the high Thursday afternoon at 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 36 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by MaXSports. We have DC Capstone Report on with us. Hey, kudos to Nate Oates before we hear this Saban audio. Kudos to him and the team getting a big win, dominant win against former coach in Arkansas State. Kudos to Nate Oates, and hopefully they're getting that defensive powerhouse set up over there at Alabama Crimson Tide. So kudos to those guys. But here's Coach Nick Saban talking about something he appreciates.
Right before the half, scoring right before the half. And when they got 20-17, which you've already mentioned, that was a great drive. And a necessary drive, no doubt, but a great drive. A lot of plays made in those two drives.
Back here. And that's Coach Nick Saban, and what he's talking about was his appreciation, DC, of how Jalen and this team handled the end of the first half and the end of the game. Those two drives made huge impact. Let you come in on that really quick, and then we're going to get Alan in on the Alabama One hotline.
Oh, I agree, and those are two huge drives, but not the only huge things or turning points in the game. But those are huge. Alabama made a statement, and they relied on those offense in those, which to me people wouldn't say was a strength, but was a strength in this game, and it really showed the maturity of the offense, the line, Jalen Milroe, the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan, you're in on the Alabama One hotline with DC and Xavier.
Well, I tried to call yesterday, but I guess y'all have some problems.
Yeah. Auburn, and the Auburn and Georgia folk, the same people that got Nick Saban's phone number. They broke in the studio Sunday night. And reset all of the boards and stuff. So the gremlins were out yesterday, but we're back.
First thing I want to say is, as far as the offense coordinator goes, I've told my guys to move their truck. They're not in front of his house no more. I told him to move to the truck stop where he can see them every day, just so he knows he screws up, we back in front of his house again. That's just where he get a simple reminder.
Well,
but what I want
to the end of that game to call, if he wait to the end of that game to call the quarterback power, instead of putting our foot on people's throats, then I'm gonna call you and tell you to go get him. I appreciate what he's doing, but I still need more.
Okay, me too. But what I wanted to ask was, they were talking about the committee this and the committee that by getting the 4 teams right. I believe last year with that Georgia TCU fiasco, I believe that was part of I said TCU. I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. But committee, I honestly believe that they didn't want that fiasco again, and they were doing everything they can. They talk about the politics of it. Yes, there probably was politics involved to a certain extent. yes, Bama travels better than anybody else, and I do understand that this is a money market, and they want to make sure that everybody wants to make money off this. And if you put Washington and Florida State together, you're not gonna have enough people to start a fight in that game. So as far as fans going, and I honestly believe that. But but this is what I get. You're mad at Alabama for getting in. Why is anybody mad at Michigan for getting in? They just got caught cheating, and you still let them in. Why ain't anybody saying anything about that? To me, that's a bigger thing than Alabama getting in. Is Michigan getting in? They got not only
Hey,
they
I
get
saw
caught cheating,
somebody
they
say
got
that.
they got
I
caught
saw somebody
cheating,
say the
and you
biggest
still
winner
there.
is Michigan.
Yes, but to see their expression on their face when they saw they was getting Alabama, I saw one of the players put his hand behind his ears and, oh no, here we go again. But why didn't anybody say anything about Michigan getting in? Their coach got suspended, and you got caught cheating, but you complained about Alabama getting in, and Michigan was clearly, got shouldn't be in there. Now what Michigan really mad about, Harbaugh really mad about, he's scratching his head and said, dang it, I had to play here. I had to plays for Michigan. I had the players for Florida State plays and everything. Now I got to find a way to get Alabama plays now. You can't get Alabama play, but we already have Florida State plays. So, why anybody get mad about that?
DC, thanks, Alan.
Well, I agree with Alan 100%. Michigan, I hadn't heard anybody. I heard one person, I think, and it was a talking head on ESPN that's way down the list that nobody really listens to. Who said that, because I don't think that's a narrative they want to put out there. But I have a different perspective, a little bit different perspective on that committee, Martin. And I've only heard one other person say this that agree with me on this, because no one else, I don't think, will go out on a limb like this, like I do. But I don't. When honestly, the way the committee works and looking at all the criteria that they look at and everything, in my opinion, I don't think the biggest debate was over Alabama and Florida State. I really don't. I don't think it went down that way. I think it was the first vote through came up with the two, Michigan and Washington, and then was going to fill out the field with the next four, and with the next three, the next pool they go to, and I believe exactly what happened was they looked at Texas, Alabama, Florida State, and Georgia, and those were the four teams that they were debating about getting in those last two slots. And I don't think the most argument, I really don't. If you look at all the metrics that they look at, if you look at everything that's happened, and you look at who is playing the best at the end of the season, which is one of the metrics, and when Matt lines up with everything, I don't think that was the discussion. And no one's going to say that. That everybody's going to believe that it was between Alabama and Florida State, but I don't think it was.
Well, I believe that Florida State was in the discussion.
I know they were in the discussion, but I don't think the discussion between getting Florida State and Alabama getting in.
Well, who do you think you're saying it was between all four?
I believe it came down. Yeah, all four, and the first one out was Georgia, and then it left three, and the next discussion was between Texas, Alabama, and Florida State, and I believe that it was a given that Alabama was getting in, and then they had to determine how they were going to make it work. And head to head, Texas's win over Alabama put them in, and they didn't want to match them up in the semifinals for a rematch. That was a big discussion that went on there because of the strength of schedule, because of the strength of record, because of the FPI, and because that Alabama had the best loss because of Texas. Alabama had the best loss. Texas had a poor loss.
I personally think Texas got in because Alabama beat Georgia, and they weren't going to leave. They weren't going to leave Alabama out. Now this is post seeing what happened, but then they also knew that they wouldn't put, even though Alabama made it where they were going to put them in. That's why they put Texas at 3, just because of the head-to-head. But those two were. Herb Street said it probably 3 weeks ago. He said Texas and Alabama will go in together or be out together if things.
And he was right, but Boo Kerrigan said they leaned on the coaches in the room to get, and that's why they leaned so much on the coaches in the room on those final three. It wasn't on anything else. It was on those final three. And I believe those coaches in the room, their first straw vote was, Michigan, Washington, Alabama. We got to do something with these other three teams. And Texas won out.
I truly believe if Georgia had won, Florida State's in, Bama and Texas are out. But because Bama won, it shook it up enough for them to go, does Florida State really deserve to be in?
Yep.
And so they put Bama and Texas in.
If Georgia beats us, Texas does not leapfrog. Texas doesn't leapfrog Florida State without Alabama. And I believe that. But I also have another opinion on why I think Alabama's in. And then it doesn't have anything to do with them ranking. One man.
And that's my opinion. I want y'all to know that it also comes from a reliable source that is in the know inside the room.
Yeah. Well, the point of all of that committee stuff was settled when Greg Sankey said one of these is not like the other. We can talk about a whole lot of other things. The reality of it is it was guys on that committee that knew. I'll talk more about that. Greg Sankey, the most powerful man in college football, is why Alabama's in. And now that doesn't mean that Alabama didn't have to take care of business and a lot of other things. And I'll tell you why I think that. Robert from Mobile, you're in on the Alabama One hotline. What's on your mind, sir? Robert, you still there? Going once, going twice.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you
go. Can you hear me now?
I hear you.
Got you.
Hey guys.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hey Robert, I hear you, Robert.
Okay, I'd like to thank the real MVP of Alabama's SEC championship, and that's the Auburn Tigers defensive coordinator. To defend fourth down on the goal at 31 yards with the worst defense in the history of college football. And I'm sure the Auburn fans feel the worst about Alabama getting in the championship as well. It's like, hell, we were this close to keeping them out. Hey, it was kind of weird. I don't know about you, Martin, I think we probably were. I was more concerned about the committee, Alabama beating Georgia and staying out of the playoffs, than I was about Alabama beating Georgia.
Absolutely.
Alabama beating Georgia was within their control. The committee wasn't.
Right.
And that had me more concerned. It was kind of weird. I know a lot of you people were frustrated with people like us talking more about what the committee's going to do than beating Georgia. So it's like, that's the one thing we just don't control is what this committee's going to do. And with the nonsense they were doing with Oregon for so long, keeping them where they shouldn't have been and keeping Alabama 8, it was a lot to worry about with this committee. Because they had to do the ridiculous thing of moving Alabama from 8 to 4. Instead of ranking it the way it should have been from the get-go, with maybe Texas 5, Alabama 6, and Oregon probably 7. And they wouldn't move Alabama no matter what they did. It was just, it was ridiculous, and that's what we're all afraid of.
Yeah.
But the scary part about this team right now is, and especially with Miro, is they haven't even gotten their peak yet.
Right.
When Miro gets to his peak, Alabama will be one of the most unstoppable teams in the history of college football.
Agree.
Because his peak is really that high. His peak, I think, in my opinion, his peak is the second coming of Cam Newton, college 2010 Cam Newton. He gets that level. Oh my goodness, we're unstoppable. And so hopefully he'll get there.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll get there, and hopefully and the offensive line, I don't think they've reached their peak yet. And look at the improvement they have made.
Yeah.
The O-line is just, it's night and day right now with the O-line. It's just amazing. And it's a great thing to see. And hopefully we'll get them next year, we'll get them to get to their peak. And I agree with a lot of people. This is the most fun team to watch in forever because of, the adversity they had there. 2020 was great, a glorious team to watch, but you never once worried about this team.
Yeah.
It was, you hate the frustration, you hate the frustration, you hate the potential we could lose. But when you overcome, it took me days to come down. I just came down now, so unfortunately I hate it because I like that high I was on. But you got to come down sometime.
Yeah, Robert, and great points, and we'll talk about it on the other side. But I will tell you, I agree with everything you just said in that segment. we'll respond on the other side. That's Robert from Mobile, and he makes a lot of good points. I don't think this team's reached their peak. I don't think they've played their best game where they've put all the elements together, offense, defense, special teams, quarterback, run, pass, etc. You know, it's an unbelievable thing. And I think that Coach Moore II said it, and I'll hit it as we go to break. I think this committee thought Oregon would win, and they thought Florida State would lose. And then if those two things happen, we don't have this conversation, because if Bama beat Georgia, they're in, and Texas is in. So I think that they thought that was going to work out. I really do. And it didn't work out that way, and then they had a tough decision to make. But a decision that the committee should have been making every year if all 5 conferences had been able to deliver on good football. That's what no one's talked about. Every year this should have been the conversation. You always had 5 conferences playing for 4 spots. The problem is we've never had 5 good conferences. Think about that for a second. And at times we've not had 4 good conferences. That's why the SEC has gotten multiple people in a playoff. This is the first year we've had 5 representatives that were worthy of getting in. And the committee finally had to do their job. And I think they did it correctly, even though I hate it for the Florida State fans and the team. But I'm not a Florida State fan, and I'm not on the team. Roll Tide.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Things pretty quiet on the roadways as we start our Tuesday morning. Now, of course, if you do see conditions, give me a call, 205-886-8886. The year-end clearance is on now at Townsend Nissan with savings up to $10,000. Don't miss it. I'm Captain Ray.
Are you ready to smell better naked? I'm Dr. Shannon Klingman, the OBGYN creator of Lumi, the whole body deodorant that's clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours on pits, feet, privates, and beyond. It's pH optimized to safely and effectively control odor anywhere you have it, but wish you didn't. Plus, it's proven to work better than a shower with soap alone. Whether you shower twice a day or 3 times a week, Lumi works better. And who doesn't want zero body odor? With over 200,000 5-star reviews, I'm so sure you're going to love it, or you can return it for free.
There's a special offer for listeners. Use code 800 and get an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack that comes with a solid stick, cream tube, free product of your choice, and ships free with code 800. LUMEdeodorant.com, code 800 for an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack. Love it or return it for free. That's LUMEdeodorant.com, code 800.
Hey, Crimson Tide fans, if you have an automobile problem while you're in town for the game, call Jeff's Towing. Anytime your car won't go and you need a tow, call Jeff's Towing, 205-361-3997.
The universal truth of women's shoes. The cuter they are, the more they hurt. You have to put your best foot forward, and if your best foot is an ugly shoe, oh my goodness. Lise Ann thought she had to choose between looking good and feeling good, until she got fitted for arch supports at the Good Feet store. Now I can wear the shoes that I've picked out because I like the way they look, not because they were comfortable. Good Feet relieved her pain and her fashion dilemma. Stop by or schedule your free fitting at goodfeet.com.
Come see us at 1800 McFarland Boulevard or goodfeet.com.
Spoiled supermarket meat, sawdust-like fillers, artificial preservatives?
Hold on there. I'm veterinarian Dr. Marty Goldstein. You don't want your dog eating any of that. These potentially harmful ingredients are found in many of today's popular dog foods, but not in Nature's Blend. A freeze-dried raw dog food with real cuts of meat, omega-3 rich seeds, and superfood veggies and fruit.
Nature's Blend is designed to help support your dog's playfulness, healthy skin, soft coat, easy digestion, and youthful mobility.
Your dog will go bonkers over Nature's Blend savory flavor and texture.
For a limited time, save up to 54% off Nature's Blend and receive a free festive holiday dog sweater with select orders. Go to drmartypets.com/deal or text DEAL to 511-511.
I guarantee it with a 100% 90-day return of your purchase price.
Offer available with select orders while supplies last. Text fees may apply. You may receive up to 1 additional text. Text stop to opt out. Paid for by Dr. Marty's Pets.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And also, just please assess the play of the secondary today.
Other than the one big play that we gave up, we didn't play well early. You know, the first drive, we were sort of out of sorts. We settled down and played pretty well. We gave up the one big play over on their sidelines, which led to a field goal. And then we got really bad field position on the punt return. It wasn't a very good punt. Guy did a good job. They put two returners back so they could get the ball fielded, and they hit us. So I thought they did a pretty good job. I think Georgia's got a really good quarterback and really good skill guys, and I thought they did a pretty good job of limiting their big plays.
That's Coach Nick Saban talking about the DBs and was about to go into Kool-Aid McKinstry being in concussion protocol. But Bama taking care of business on the field and forcing the committee to make a decision. I know that there was a lot of conversations going on in that room, and I believe the coaches' thoughts lined up with what DC said. But I also think that the athletic directors in that room, I still don't think if Greg Sankey doesn't do what he does, that they do what they did. Let me explain. Greg Sankey stood on stage and challenged their manhood when he stood up and said, Sesame Street, guys, one of these is not like the others. Not one of these is not like the Pac-12. Not one of these is not like the ACC. He didn't go after Florida State. He put every single conference on notice. And the reason I think he did that is this. First of all, the night before he had talked about the 12-team playoff and how some of these commissioners didn't want to go to the 12-team playoff this year like he had said. Okay? Well, guess who one of those was? The ACC's commissioner. And he threw him under the bus the night before. But that day he said, listen, the SEC is in a league of its own, and if you don't put that champion in, it's going to be wrong. And the reason I think he has that type of power is I think the Power Five is going to pull away from the conference. And as of today, right now, I think Greg Sankey is the czar. I think he's the new head of the Power Five. And when he speaks, everybody listens. So that's my thoughts. That, DC, I'll let you respond to that real quick, and then we'll get to Ronnie in South Carolina.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, there's politicking that goes on, and he's the head, and when he speaks, people listen. And I'm sure that had a big influence and that just supports what I've already said happened. It wasn't just Florida State; it was Florida State, Texas. And it was the question wasn't over Alabama because what they had done on the field spoke volumes about beating the number one team in the nation, and they didn't have anywhere else to do but put them in. The question was how they were going to see them after that.
Yeah, and I didn't watch the show. I was at church, but anybody watching when Texas went in at 3, I would have naturally known Alabama was in at 4 because they weren't going to leap Texas over Florida State and then not leap Alabama over Florida State after Alabama had beaten Georgia. So, Ronnie, you're in on the Alabama One hotline with DC and Xavier. What's on your mind?
Thanks for taking my call, guys. I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener.
Thank you. Glad to have you part of the family.
Welcome. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Just wanted to mention the offense. Jalen Monroe probably had his worst game in weeks, but when they had crunch time, he came through big time when they needed a big play. And you think about if Chase McClellan had been in the game, first string running back, I think that'd been a big plus, even though the backups did a great job. But Isaiah Bonds became a superstar in the fourth quarter. every play they needed, they went to him. He did an awesome job.
Yeah,
He did.
I agree with that. He absolutely did. Did you also want to say anything about the drop passes? Then I'll let you X respond, and then
Yeah,
you respond.
I got a
DC.
couple other comments right quick, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Starting second half, Bama went 3 and out, 8 and out, 4 and out, 3 and out. Georgia's defense pretty much shut them down starting the second half until they needed a big play. And defense played awesome, except the backs need to learn how to catch the ball. They had 4 dropped interceptions.
4 interceptions. You're right, Ronnie. You're on point. X. Go ahead, Ronnie. Real quick before I let you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, no.
Go ahead, X. X,
no,
go ahead.
No, it was the DBs that was. Now we see why they play DB and not wide receiver. But no, no, the defense did a great job. Hey, at least those guys were in position to make a play on the ball, because a couple of those, especially the one Story missed, because I think he got a little too excited and ran past the ball. If he wasn't there, that's a Brock Bowers touchdown. That changes the outcome of the game. So, need to hit the jug machines over the next few weeks, but proud of the way they played.
Thanks, Ronnie. Appreciate you, man. Call back anytime. Glad to hear you. Listening up in South Carolina? Ronnie may be gone. Thank
you.
Go ahead. Thank you. Hey, let's go to Todd. Todd, you're in with DC and Xavier on the Alabama One Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call, man. I tell you, the doggone offensive line enabled Milroe to stand back there not 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds was incredible. It just says so much about Milroe. He wants to be that passer, man. He is trying his darndest to be that passer. And he's getting better every day. Like the previous caller stole my thunder, that Isaiah Bond, you go back to the Auburn game, that catch from Milroe is, man, it's second to none, guys. And then what Milroe and Bond did there, in the game is simply amazing. But I tell you, one of my upcoming rising stars to me is on the defensive side of the ball that nobody's really talking about is Caleb Downs. That guy, I'm not going to say kid because he's a man in a man's world. That guy, that man, he comes up and wants to lay the stinking wood. And that's something I think Alabama's been missing, the last couple of years, the last few years. You look at the previous years, and those cornerbacks and safeties, they not coming up just to cover somebody. They coming up to knock somebody's stinking lights out. And that's one of my favorite things that I liked about watching Saban's backs come up and how aggressive and physical they were. And that kid right there, or that man right there, he's doing some business, guys. And he's a true freshman, right?
Yeah.
Correct. DC, your response?
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on Caleb Downs. When he comes up aggressively, and he comes up to make a tackle or break up a pass, and his speed is so helpful as well. He reminds me of his aggressive attacking the ball carrier, like a Mark Barron or a Harrison. They used to do the same thing. We hadn't had a safety like that in a while. Minka Fitzpatrick was a great safety, but I don't think he laid the wood like Caleb Downs does.
And this is not disagreeing with you guys about Caleb, but I think it's not that we haven't had that type of safety. Caleb played the star the last few weeks. That's why you see that happening. Mark Barron was truly back in a safety position, and these guys. So when you look at the fact that what happened is where Minka's been playing, where Branch has been playing, and where Malachi Moore's been playing, they put Downs there in the Kentucky game. They put Downs there, and he's a physical safety. That's the way safeties played back in the day. That star was run support. And what Caleb brings to the game is he's a run support safety who has some pretty good coverage skills. We haven't had that type of player that could play in the star position. And I think we went to that because in the Kentucky game for Brock Bowers, big enough to run with Bowers, physical enough to play with Bowers, athletic enough to cover Bowers, and still bring great run support. That's what Saban said last week. That's not revelation from me. My only thing is I think he did it in the Kentucky game so that by the Georgia game, he would be ready to do that. Come back on the other side, we're going to get DC's thoughts in terms of the game and a few other thoughts and comments there. We'll do all those on the other side. Want to remind you that there's great things always happening. And if you are a part of the Martin Houston Show and you're out there listening, the Billy's Cooking Restaurant has a great promotion going on for the month of December. If you go in and visit and make a $15 purchase, it's going to come with a free pork sandwich at no charge. First-time visitors. So if you haven't taken me up on the offer to go see Billy's Cooking Restaurant, do that in the month of December. Make your first purchase, get a additional free pork sandwich free of charge. And that's on Saturday. So take advantage of that any Saturday of the month of December. We'll be back on the other side to wrap up this edition of the Martin Houston Show with DC Capstone Report.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Things pretty quiet on the roadways as we start our Tuesday morning. Now, of course, if you do see conditions, give me a call, 205-886-8886. The year-end clearance is on now at Townsend Nissan with savings up to $10,000. Don't miss it. I'm Captain Ray.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Tuesday morning. A night of celebrating the season turned into horror during last night's West Alabama Christmas parade. A 9-year-old was badly injured when they fell from a trailer during the parade. The incident happened at the Greensboro Avenue and University Boulevard intersection. Though serious, the child's injuries are said to not be life-threatening. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Coming up next on The Stingray Show.
On the next edition of The Stingray Show, which will air on Tuesday evening, we are going to be joined by none other than Chris Felica of Fox Sports to get his take on bowl season coming up. That's on the next edition of The Stingray Show.
Tune into The Stingray Show, Tuesday night from 6 to 7 p.m. on Tide 100.9.
The Birmingham Racecourse Casino 7 days of giveaways is going on now. The more you visit, the more chances you have to win. We're giving away $125,000 in free play and cash. That's right. Birmingham Racecourse Casino is giving away $125,000 in free play and cash. Play the latest, most exciting games around with fun bonuses and big jackpots. There's always more ways to win at Birmingham Racecourse Casino off I-459, exit 31, Derby Parkway. Must be 21 or older. Must be present to win.
Meet Cheryl. Hey. She's on vacation and lost in the moment. Unfortunately, so is her Chase debit card.
It's got to be somewhere.
Maybe she lost it at salsa night.
These skirts should have pockets.
Or maybe she lost it at Pilates.
3 and 2 and...
But she's not worried. With the Chase mobile app, she can lock her card till it turns up. Tools that help protect. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Weather brought to you by Tidwell Chiropractic, the only third-generation chiropractor with over 26 years experience in Tuscaloosa. Call Tidwell Chiropractic at 752-2503.
Tide 100.9 and Local Bank are proud to present Hometown Heroes. Each month, we'll take nominations for local heroes from law enforcement, firefighters, educators, and medical professionals. Our Hometown Heroes will be featured on the Tide 100.9 website. Log online to Tide109.com and nominate a Hometown Hero today. Winners will receive lunch at Texas Roadhouse. Local Bank is a proud sponsor of Hometown Heroes. Local Bank puts customers first. Local people, local decisions. Local Bank, 1635 McFarland Boulevard, Tuscaloosa, and online at mylocal.bank. Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by MaXSports. We have DC Capstone Report on with us. DC, tell us what makes it possible for you to be on with us each week?
Well, RollTideBama.com, FreelancePictures.com. That's Lance's site. Lance Shores. He's the one who produces my podcast. Podcast is already up. And also Karen Cottingham, realtor with the Keller Williams Group here, the Williams Group at Keller Williams. She's a great realtor here in town, 205-887-4008.
All right. Thanks, DC. Hey, real quick, just a couple guys. The trajectory of this team has been impressive as things started to turn around in the second half of the Ole Miss game and have not stopped going up since. MHS 04-07, DC said the good, the play of the offensive and defensive lines dominated. The bad, Bama dropping about 4 interceptions. The ugly, David Pollock, Danny Cannell, Booger McFarland, and Tim Brando. And then he caught himself and said, oh, yeah, the bad, Wimp, and Barry Sanderson and Gary Harrison picking again against Bama. Come on, guys. DC, what was your good, bad, and ugly?
Well, I think the good was the play of the offensive line, the defensive line, no doubt. I think in this game they showed themselves to be the better team. That was the best play, I think, overall. It was offensive line, defensive line. Now, the bad, I think, was just that first drive. But then the ability to adapt after that was good, of course. And the ugly, I think, I hate to say it, but it just the announcing. It was hard for me to listen to Gary Danielson in this game. I was thankful it was the last one I'd have to listen to.
Yeah, without a doubt. He wasn't going to let go of that play at the end of the first half, but several times. But anyway, I think the offensive line was almost too good because it made Milroe less aggressive. And I know that sounds crazy and stupid, but he didn't feel pressure to take off because of the O-line protection and things. We have to be aggressive if we're going to beat these next two teams. These next two teams will score points. Now, I don't know if they'll score any more than Georgia did, but we have to be more aggressive. I want to annihilate people in this playoff, DC.
I agree 100%.
Hey, when you look at it, DC, what was your turning point in the game?
I think the adjustments that the offensive and the defensive coordinators and the position coaches made after the first couple of drives, and Georgia came out in a two spy defense, which we haven't seen in a while. It took a while for the offensive coordinators and people to get their heads together and see how to attack that. But those drag routes, everybody says, that Bond was the man. Bond was the man because he went to drag routes, went right behind those two spies. And the two spies not rushing gave the offensive line, gave him a long time for those long drag routes to develop, and they took advantage of it. That was great. When they changed defenses and said, hey, we're not going to play that anymore because it's not working, we went back to the defense they knew in the Kentucky game. That was the difference in the game on defense. I think the ability to adapt and overcome in this game was the turning point.
And X and I'll talk more about turning point probably tomorrow, but I'm gonna just throw this out there. First two drives, our quarterback didn't run the ball. Third drive, we call a quarterback sweep. He didn't gain any yards, but it made those guys have to honor our quarterback's legs. Do it at the start, Tommy Reese. Okay, now I'm finished. DC players of the game.
On offense, I got Jalen Milroe and the entire offensive line. I don't think you can pick anybody else on offense than them. And on defense, I went with Deontay Lawson. I thought he called a great game, and he was flying side to side and playing extremely well and aggressive, making a lot of stops on the run. Holding Georgia to 78 yards rushing. No one's talking about that. That's a monumental feat. And then Terrion Arnold again. Everybody talks about Kool-Aid McKinstry, and he's great, but Terrion Arnold is playing himself into a first round of the NFL draft, I believe.
Yeah, and I think you have to throw Amos in to that conversation when he came in. Most impressive thing about Alabama's win?
My most impressive thing about Alabama's win, is the fact that we dominated the line of scrimmage, and I think everyone assumed that Georgia was going to dominate us.
Yeah, and I'll talk more about this in detail tomorrow. But most impressive thing for me was me, you, and everybody in America said Milroe will have to be Milroe. 250, 300 yards passing, 100 yards rushing. None of that happened, and this Alabama team still won, which shows that this team is deep and can do some things. Philip, get you in really quick. Philip, you're in with DC. Capstone Report, and Xavier on the Alabama One Hotline. What you got?
Man, it ain't going to take long. The SEC was this prolific 6-4 against the SEC. Well, let me break it down, Martin. They were 4-1 against what I call the lower 7 of the SEC. They beat Vandy once, South Carolina twice, Florida once, and Texas A&M once. Okay, they were 4-1 against the top tier of the SEC, which would be UGA, Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU, Missouri, UT, and Kentucky. They were 1-4.
Yeah. Great point, Philip. I have to let you go so I can let DC have closing thoughts. But great point. And one of the things I pointed out to other people is most of the time when you do the comparisons on the conferences, DC is comparing the top teams of the other conferences playing like in the bowl games and stuff against the lower teams of Alabama. Closing thoughts.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I agree. My closing thoughts is these talking heads, they're all around the nation that bashing Alabama. They're not bashing Alabama because they got in above Florida State and there's a one-loss team. They're bashing Alabama because they're Alabama. They're not bashing Texas. They're not bashing Michigan, who's cheated all year. It's the Alabama bias. It's the Alabama hate. I think it fuels this Alabama team going into the playoffs. And I don't think we're tested the playoffs. I think we win the national championship.
X, closing thoughts for today.
I have to agree with DC as he summed it up. It's not because of the SEC. It's because Bama is the gold standard. And when you're the gold standard, everybody's taking shots at you.
That's right. DC, thanks, and tell them where they can find you and find your podcast.
Well, it's up on the DC Capstone Report, DCCapstoneReport.com, DC Capstone Report Facebook page. But I'd also like to say all the listeners out there, Martin, if I could, Saturday at Harvest Church, we're having a great Christmas festival that's going to give away food bags, toys, anybody in need. Please get the word out to come at 11 o'clock at Harvest Church on Highway 82 across from the Dollar General in Coker, Alabama.
All right. That's DC Capstone Report. I'm Martin Houston. That's Xavier Houston. Thanks to all the callers, listeners, viewers, and chatters for being a part of the program. We'll be back tomorrow to keep some of this same conversation going. We'll also work you into the conversation. Remember this, trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Roll Tide out there, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.